All right, welcome to another episode of the Pineapple Perspective with Troy Hooper, sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants. Today's another very special day as a very good friend of mine is joining us. Charlie Eblen, owner, founder, operator, Single Tree Wood Fire Barbecue in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. That's about 40 minutes south of Nashville, so anybody in central Tennessee should find their way to Murfreesboro and go get some of the best Texas style barbecue outside of Texas you could have. Charlie, welcome to the Pineapple Perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to hang out with you for a little while today.
So everybody understands it's a little dark in Charlie's office because the eclipse is happening right now. So Charlie's right in the middle of a 99% occlusion eclipse. So it'll get brighter as the show goes on. I'm convinced of that. Charlie, take 60 seconds. Tell us who you are, what you do, a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Man, Charlie Eblen. I am 5'7". I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm the founder and owner operator of Single Tree Wood Fire Barbecue. We are on a mission to become the Nike of barbecue, where we will help build and grow community through undeniable hospitality, storytelling, and the perfect plate of barbecue. We started this brand about 3 years ago now. It started as just a little catering company, food truck. I was having a conversation earlier with Sean Walchef today about how that sentence of being just a little food truck has really fueled my fire over the years, and it just continues to fuel the fire. And we want to make the best barbecue we possibly can, but our real passion is helping and building and growing our community.
So, Charlie, on this show, we start off by asking you what hospitality means to you. What does hospitality mean to Charlie, and where did you come up with that belief? However, you define hospitality, how did you form that?
I think hospitality is relationships. It's not just the smile and saying thank you and please and we appreciate you or our pleasure. I mean, all of those are great sayings. All of those are great. They're great lines, but hospitality is really about the relationship that you build with people every single day, and whether it's in a digital form, whether it's in the physical form, whether it's holding the door with somebody and really really getting their story throughout their experience in your restaurant or your business or retail or you name it. I mean, hospitality can come from anywhere. It's not a restaurant specific thing, right? Where it came from for me was probably the way I was raised and how I was raised. It really started for me. I would say I think I was 13 years old, and I got a job at the golf course picking up golf balls. I walked into the pro shop one day, and the manager of the restaurant was just he was having one of those days, and it was some organized chaos going on and things going everywhere. And I walked up to him. I said, "Man, can I help you out? Can I do anything for you?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, if you could wash some dishes for me, that would be great." I said, "Okay." So I went back. I knocked out some dishes for him, and I came back out front, and I said, "Man, that's done. What do you need now?" And he said, "Well, you're done with all those dishes already?" I said, "Yeah. What else do you need?" And he was like, "I don't know." Okay, well, I'll just help. How's that? And I started bussing tables in the pro shop restaurant and talking to people and refilling teas and waters and just had a good time and just started meeting people and listening to the stories of the day for how people's rounds were going on a golf course, and it was just a lot of fun. And I got to meet people that I would have never got to meet before if I wouldn't have just gone out and just started meeting people and just refilling some drinks. And it was fun. It got to be something that I did on a regular basis. And when I was 16 and it was time to actually get a job, the restaurant business was just kind of natural. That's where I gravitated to. And so it became way more than just washing dishes or cooking a steak or serving tables. It became, oh man, I can all the look at all the cool people I can meet throughout all the days of coming in and having to scrub pans. And go out and bust tables. And then all of a sudden now I can meet this guy that I would have never met before that, is now a TV show and host a fishing show in Georgia, right? Those were really cool moments. I got to meet some professional golfers that I would have never met before. They were just coming in to get a Gatorade or and a hot dog on the turn. So it became something that meant a lot more to me than just slinging some groceries through an expo window and having a server run them out.
So, Charlie, you've just told us about what your thesis and what your belief around hospitality is today. And then you've just told us sort of the origin story of your first hospitality related job and how you came to understand what it meant to help and serve and be a part of a team and bring experiences to people. So from that time at the country club golf course and now as the owner of a restaurant and catering business, how has your view and experience of hospitality changed? What are some milestones? What are some moments in your career or your life that you can recall and say, hey, I learned something more about hospitality in that moment or in that era? And, whether it was a mentor or a particular job, how has that origin story of hospitality in Charlie's mind to today's owner operator, leader hospitality mindset that you hold today, how has that evolved? And give me some instances where you feel like you kind of grew in your understanding or your sort of use of hospitality.
Yeah, I've spent, and for your listeners, I've spent a lot of time in the corporate restaurant segment. And that's where I spent most of my time in pretty large companies like Ruby Tuesdays, Logan's Roadhouse, et cetera, right? And some pretty large brands, national brands, I would say. And through the years of managing those restaurants, working in those restaurants, it's all stayed true as hospitality is really the driving force of a restaurant. You got to have good food for sure, but if you're not undeniably hospitable, people won't come back and see you, right? It's an experience when people go out to dinner or go to lunch or whatever it may be. It's not just going to get a great burger or a good brisket sandwich or ribs or whatever. And it really kind of hit home for me. I would probably say about 20 years ago at this point. I was the general manager of a restaurant called Tony Roma Steaks and Seafood. And we had just opened, and one of my servers was greeting a table. The one of the little kids at the table, well, the little kid at the table wanted a Dr. Pepper. We didn't sell Dr. Pepper. We had Mr. Pibb. She didn't say that. We got him Mr. Pibb, brought it to the table. They were not very happy with the fact that we didn't get them a Dr. Pepper. We got a Mr. Pibb. I come by, I can see the body language at the table. I tell them to hold on 1 second. I run out into the middle of the mall. We were located in Opry Mills Mall, and I run out in the mall. They had a Coke machine right out front that sold 20-ounce Dr. Pepper. Put the $2 in there, got my Dr. Pepper, came running back in, got them a glass with some ice, and said, "Here you go." And they were just blown away that the fact of that I took the time and the money to go out into the mall and get them a Dr. Pepper so they could eat in my restaurant. It's nothing. That's what they were wanting. That's what I just got what they wanted. But because I didn't just go, sorry, we don't sell Dr. Pepper. They became regular guests of mine. And they came in at least once a week. I always tell people that your goal in the hospitality restaurant business is not to get people to come back and see you every day, but if you can get them to come back more than once, then you're doing a good job. If you can get them to come back on a regular basis, where they come see you once a week, every other week, then you've gone above and beyond. You're doing something more than just serving them food. You're creating an experience. You're learning who they are, understanding their story, being able to tell their story allows you to tell your story, and it becomes this symbiotic relationship that people enjoy. I try to do that with every guest that walks in my building. And that experience really, I thought I knew what hospitality was at that point in time, but it really drove home that it's not about just being nice. It's about taking that extra step And that extra step doesn't have to cost you a ton of money, doesn't have to cost you a ton of time or be something difficult. It could just be a conversation that you have every single time somebody comes into the restaurant. Hey man, how's your kids? Hey, I have a KCBS judge that comes into my restaurant all the time, and I ask him every time he walks in the door, I know you've been judging some comps. Tell me about it, man. How was the last couple of comps you went? And he tells me all about his trip and his travel and the comp and who won and how good they were and this, that, and the other. And it's amazing. But it takes me 3 minutes to have that conversation and move on. But because I do that, he knows that I'm interested in what he's doing. And I believe through my core that when people understand that I truly actually care when I ask, how's your day going, that means something to them. And that's why they want to come back and see me, not because, we have great food, but because we actually care about the guests that come in my building. One of my favorite comments that I've had and or reviews of my business is that me and my team give great service, but it wasn't that we give great service. It was the fact that we want to provide great service, not that we have to provide great service. And and I truly believe that is why we are becoming successful every day and more successful every day, because the guests that come in this building, nobody can fire me except for them. So I want to provide the best meal, the best service, the best hospitality that they've ever seen. And when we do that, we win. And not only do we win, but the guests win. They have a great place to go eat.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, I've been in your shop and I've watched you do it, and it wasn't a show. It wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't because you thought that's what you needed to do. It's just naturally ingrained and even amplified even more when your lovely wife is slinging sweet tea. So if you're ever in Murfreesboro, go experience this form of really undeniable hospitality. So where did you come up with the phrase undeniable hospitality? How did that become your mantra? How did that become sort of the North Star for you?
As a general manager, as a director of restaurants, as a vice president, COO, whatever, all the things, you always try to find ways to explain to your team what your expectations are. And I used to tell people all the time that my expectation for our guest is simple. I want our guests to leave our restaurant, sit down in their car, and look at each other and go, "Are those people really that nice?" So it really over the years, and I say years, it's probably been 20, 25 years that I've thought about it. And I want my guest to literally have no hesitation in the fact of if somebody asks how the service is in my building, for it to literally be undeniable. People come in here and they know we're human, just like everybody else, and we could mess up a brisket, we could mess up a pork butt, we can mess up ribs, we can make mistakes too. But we control our emotions. We control how we treat people. So there's no external factors there. We make those decisions. So I want people to come in here and there's never a doubt that they're going to have a pleasurable and undeniable experience that is extremely hospitable. If we can do that every single day, put a smile on our face, then we're doing the right things. And I truly believe people will come back and eat in my restaurant and in my future restaurants because that is the thesis of who we are. We talk about it every day in the restaurant. I talk about it to my cooks. I talk about it to my servers. I talk about it to my wife, who teaches me way more about hospitality every day than I can even imagine. She is absolutely amazing. But we teach it to our kids. It's one of those things that no matter what's going on, what's happening, you never know what's going on in someone's life. And if you can treat them with complete and utter undeniable hospitality, you can change that person's day, change that person's week. And there's no substitute for a smiling face when you walk through the door.
In this day and age, as we all fret about the labor market, finding skilled labor, finding unskilled labor, young labor to come into a restaurant and make, quote, minimum wage or $1 or $2 more plus some tips. How do you impart what is apparently born into you, sort of that servant's heart, right? It's an old phrase that I learned coming up in the business, but How do you impart that? How do you train that? How do you convince young people who might just be doing this for a summer job or for the year between school or while they're in community college or whatnot? How do you get them to adopt this mindset to a point that, and what I'm getting at is every day is busy, every day there's a lot of tasks. It's easy to sort of just go through the motions and drop food on a table and drop a check and take a payment, right? And that we experience that every day everywhere we go. Like we go to places that we basically get the most basic form of service, but we don't get hospitality. How do you impart that on your team, and how do you find people who can adopt and replicate that for when you're not able to be there?
So we do a detailed interview. The best you're ever going to get out of somebody is the day that they're sitting across from you trying to get the job. That's the best you're ever going to get out of them. They're going to be better then than they are on the first day of work. They're going to be better then than they are on the second day of the work, right? So, and the more comfortable they get, the more the true personality comes out. I will tell you that one of the things that I've learned over the last few years of owning my own business is to hire slow and fire fast. If somebody is not a good personality fit, then they can't be on the team. But number one, the biggest thing I feel like we do is we embody what we're looking for every day. And if you can't, if you're having a bad day because you're a human being, that's fine. But when you walk through the door, you got to flip a switch and put your bad day to the side. Come to me. Let's have a conversation about it. What can we do to fix it? If we can't fix it, great. Then you need to take the day off. Awesome. We'll figure it out. I tell my team all the time, I'm not scared to work. I care less about how hard I work throughout the day because it's not about me. It's about the brand and our legacy that we're building. And the guests that walk through our door don't care if we're having a bad day. They want to come in and have a great experience. They want to enjoy their barbecue. So we have to embody what we want every single day. And if the people that we have don't have the capabilities of doing that, then great. That's perfectly fine. I'll give you a great reference. You can go work somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't hold people back because of that. What I have found is just because you have a ton of experience in a restaurant, just because you know how to cook everything underneath the sun, doesn't make you a great fit. You have to gel into the team. And something we've really been doing over the last couple of months is we interview, we go through the process. If I can have a great conversation with you about anything and everything, then okay, great. You passed the first stage. Well, now let's go spend a couple hours on the line with the boys and the girls in the kitchen and see how you gel with them. See how that works. Because just as much as I want to to have a great team, and just because we had a great conversation sitting at the table doesn't mean that you and my team are going to have great conversations while you're working on the line and we're getting slammed doing $1,000 hours in a 1,000 square foot building. It's busy and it's stressful. The organized chaos can get a little rampant. So, how do you handle that? And can you get along with those people? Because if you have a bad attitude because of X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't mesh well with the other team, then it's gonna create a bad culture inside the building. And a bad culture is it's a quick way to the wrong side of the business, right? So, you have to train it as much as you possibly can by embodying what you're looking for. But some of it is just a natural behavior, right? There's people out there that they're just not the nicest people in the world. They're not rude, they're not mean, they're not disrespectful, they're just not nice. And that's fine. That's okay. You can be that way. Probably shouldn't work in the restaurant business, but it's our job to try to catch that early and make sure that we're doing the things that we want everyone else around us to do.
Charlie, you talk about building community. It's in your tagline, in your mantra, in your mission statement. What is the role of your business in building community? Why is building community through the perfect plate of barbecue part of your mission statement? And how does that come to life? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
So I truly believe that it takes a village to raise a child. And I also truly believe that it takes a community to build a business. If I want them to come and spend their money with me, then I have to do everything in my power to help the community around me. I had a meeting with one of our county commissioners last week before, and I asked him, I said, what can I do to help? How can I do more for you? Because we have some needs in our community, and our county commission has the ability to help those needs. So how, as a business owner and father and resident in this community, how can me, my wife, and my children help do more? And it was simply put to just continue to be one of the leaders in our community that helps voice their opinion and offer solutions to help grow and do better in our community. For me, it's about the kids. It's about the other business owners. It's about how we can get better and not just tax people, not just throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks. It's about getting involved. It's going to the school board meetings. It's helping the local schools and the teachers when they need things. It's being involved and understanding what's going on around you, right? When you have a community like mine that is the 13th fastest growing city in the country. So quickly we forget that this community is built up of the residents that are just like me, and the conversations that I have every single day. Well, the one county commissioner for this district can't keep up with all of the residents. So if we're not speaking up and we're not asking how we can help, then how could we ever expect to have a successful business or children raised and be productive members of society that make meaningful impacts when we sit on our hands and just expect it to all come to us? You can't. I've never asked for handouts. I've never asked for my mom or my dad or anybody to just give me stuff. I've always wanted to work for it. I've always wanted to be the guy that built something. I've always wanted to make things better. I never settle for anything. It's never good enough for me. I've just always been that person that's really strived to help grow and build and I can't do that without a community that's behind me that is just as passionate as I am about helping and building and growing and making this place better. Community is for me, it's the only way that I'll be successful. And if I'm not a thriving member in the community trying to help, how could I ever ask them to come spend their hard-earned money with me?
Well, and not that this thesis or that getting out in the community has to have a direct ROI, but I see a lot of businesses, especially restaurants, that don't really buy into this belief system or don't see the value of putting that kind of time in. I'll tell you one that does, and it's about to sell for $8 billion most likely, is Jersey Mike's. They're built on the entire concept of going out in the community. The founder and CEO has said on stage multiple times, I've seen him, say, look, if you can't give away a half a sandwich so people can taste your food, how are you going to ever expect them to know whether they want your food? Like, you have to get out in the community. You have to do those nonprofit things. You have to help kids raise money. You have to donate the food to the church thing. Like, you have to get involved so people know who you are. And that, like you said, people buy from people, right? They don't buy from necessarily from brands or from menus, or they really are buying from a relationship in most communities, especially in the franchise business or small independent business like you are, where they can actually get to know the owner, right? And so I think I think and believe in it. But how do you, if at all, do you even track the ROI? Is there a mindset of, if I stop doing it, the sales go down, or if I didn't do it, I would be half as successful as I am? Or like, how do you, think like other business owners might think and say, hey, I'm happy to do it, but I've got to see some kind of ROI. How do you measure that, whether anecdotally or directly?
I think a lot of it is just how I sleep good at night. You can put things in place and track it to the nth degree if you want to, but what's the ROI on spending the hours upon hours of tracking all that stuff, right? I would rather be making an impact in my community than spending 4 or 5 hours a week tracking where the 40 meals I sent to Blackman High School for the baseball team the other day was. Because, one, the ROI is not immediate. That those 40 box lunches I sent over to the coaches and players of Blackman High School, I'm not going to see any of that return tomorrow. I may not see it next week, but I will tell you that they're going to remember who I am. I will tell you that I gave them a whole bunch of stickers, and I've already seen those stickers on baseball helmets and laptops already this weekend. So, yeah, did it drive revenue into the restaurant? Sure. But, what it did more than anything else was it made a meaningful impact in those kids' lives. They may not have been able to eat they might have gotten McDonald's hamburgers, and nothing against McDonald's hamburgers, but the nutritional value of that versus my pork sandwiches is a little bit different. So those kids went out and I had a small part in their game that day, and they won. So I'm not saying that Singletree made them win that game, although I like to think that I had a play in it. But it did make their day better, right? They wanted to pick it up at 1:45. We had it ready at 1:40. The lady walked in, picked it up. We carried it out to the car. She was so ecstatic that we had it, not only that we were even doing it, but that we had it ready to go for them when they walked in, that she came back 20 minutes later and ordered $100 worth of food for the rest of her family. So yeah, sure, it costs you money. Sure, it costs you time. But the impact that you can make in people's lives by doing things like that and being involved in the community is absolutely amazing. And the money always comes back. It always comes back. It may not come back today, it may not come back tomorrow, but it will always come back to you in the long
Last and most important question, Charlie. How long are we letting that beard get? That's my question.
term. I don't know. I don't know. I just had it trimmed a couple weeks ago, actually. It's we got all the dead ends off, but I would say that over probably the last year, it's 4 or 5 inches longer than it ever has been. My wife and kids love it, and I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but I guess it was probably, let's see, Mason is 10 now, so 8 years ago, it was about half as long as it is now. It was probably about right here, 4 or 5 inches long. So I came home from an executive meeting I had at one of the restaurant brands that I work for, and I won't name names, but the COO walked up to me and said, "What the hell is on your face?" And I said, "Well, it's my beard." Well, she told me that, it needed to be trimmed up in a very polite way. So I get home and I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to shave it off. I'm just going to just trim it all the way off, and I'm going to go back to my Army days, and it's going to be slick. My wife went and picked up the kids that day from school and came home. And my youngest, Mason, who's now 10, he was probably 2 or 3 years old. He looked at me and ran away. Ran away. And we were all sitting on the couch a couple hours later, and he looked over at his mom and he started touching his face, and he said, I want my old daddy back.
Yeah.
So that was I think the last time that I actually completely shaved it completely off. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's a long time.
and for a long time I kept it pretty short. I only kept it, it was a full beard, but it was trimmed up pretty nice. Now, if I shave it off now, I don't think anybody know who I am.
No, for sure not. Take your hat off and shave your beard. Nobody would recognize you. That's for
I
sure.
took my hat off. I came to work. I got my hair cut a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't wear a hat that day. And one of my regular guests, who I've known for a very long time, even before the restaurant, came in and literally took a double take to make sure that it was me because I didn't have a hat on. So, yeah. Singletree hats and long beards are kind of.
Well, I think it's a requirement in the barbecue business. You got to have a flat brim hat with your name on it and wear it 24 hours a day, no matter what your hair situation is. Because you and Sean Walchef and everybody else I know Certainly, certainly that's the
I
uniform,
don't,
right?
I don't think I've ever seen Sean without a hat on.
It's startling. It's so infrequent. It is surprising.
Yeah,
You could walk past him if he didn't have his hat on. That's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, especially when his hair is really, really short, because he looks very, very different. Yep.
I love it.
Well, good stuff, Charlie. Really appreciate you being on the show. Really appreciate your perspective on hospitality and what it means and what its true value, not only to you, your family, your business, and your customers and your employees is, but always appreciate your perspective as a friend and a colleague in this industry. And really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with our audience today as well.
Man, I really appreciate you having me on. Y'all make sure and follow me on all my socials at Single Tree BBQ. You can find my podcast, Single Tree Nation, on all the platforms. YouTube, go subscribe to it. It's the same thing at Single Tree BBQ. If you want to get involved, you can email me at Charlie, CHARLIE, at singletreebbq.com.
Awesome stuff. Hey, Charlie, don't look directly at the sun, but please go out and have a unique experience of a total solar eclipse there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
We're excited. I think the kids are supposed to come up to the restaurant and watch it with us, so we'll see what happens.
Very good. All right. Thanks, Charlie. We'll see you again soon, my friend.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.